Hello and welcome back, Eddie Radosevich, Bob Przybylo in the SoonerScoop.com studios. Welcome back to the SoonerScoop.com YouTube channel and basketball hoops report, the first hoops report to kick off your 2025. Happy New Year to everybody out there in YouTube land, and got a basketball squad, I think. Oklahoma off to a 13-0 start. Obviously, a perfect record through the non-conference, Bob. Welcome in. How's it going? And it's been a fun ride so far for the Oklahoma Sooners.
I'm glad we can say this is the first one because I would have been eating my words had we done one in October or November. There's so many things that I've been wrong about with this team through the first couple months of the season. Again, off to the 13-0 start. First time since 87-88. That is a long time. But the way this team has played, it feels like it can be sustained.
Sure.
It doesn't look like it's all smoke and mirrors like it was last season. You're still going to have some bumps. There's no doubt about that. But this feels like a team that is mentally and physically tough enough for what's about to go down.
Well, here we go. What's about to go down is the start of SEC conference play, and Oklahoma opening up SEC play in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, 33-2 over the last, I think Porter Moser said, 4 years of, or I guess the last 2 years of home games, 33-2 down in Tuscaloosa. Obviously one of the best teams in the country. The first 5 games for Oklahoma here, starting on Saturday, 5 o'clock in Tuscaloosa. Come home, play A&M. At Georgia, Texas, and Mississippi State back here in Norman. And I guess here, this is kind of, you might have just answered it, but how is this different than what we've seen for Oklahoma through the first 3 years of Porter Moser, in which they've had really good non-conference schedules?
I think a lot of it is based on their mentality in the transfer portal in the spring and summer.
Sure.
The analytics that they used in trying to bring this team together. We all said it in May and June, where's the big portal guy? Where's the guy to get you excited? Duke Miles was a quasi, top 100,
Sure,
maybe top 150. Everyone else is this is Porter and staff saying we see a fit. Maybe it's not like a 4-star top 50 ranking, but we know what you can do to try to help this team. And so far, every single one of those guys has checked off the box of what they've needed them to do.
We spoke with Porter Moser as well as Jalen Moore and Sam Godwin on Thursday afternoon before they head down to Tuscaloosa, and they had a little bit of a talk here about just kind of what everything has meant here through the non-conference schedule going into conference play.
For the early part of the non-conference schedule, I thought we had a lot of different guys on different nights score the ball. That was encouraging to me. You look at, we went with the smaller guard lineup a couple games in, and each one of those guys had games over 25 points. Jalen Hill has had that. Sam got over 20-point games. So, coaches always worry about scoring, and with a new team. And we've had different guys, different nights in a lot of the games. The thing we've been able to do is I think we got some fight in us. I think we got some resiliency in us that and some belief. There's a great chemistry in the locker room about believing these preseason things. It doesn't matter to us. We know we're facing the preseason number 1 team in the country. They're a ton of respect. Preseason number 1 SEC team in Alabama. We know just a ton of respect for the program and what they do. But there's an inner confidence. It's a confident respect I think we have, and it's how hard we're working in practice, how hard we prepare, and I think that's what you like to see too in this era of a lot of new guys on a new team, that they're pulling for each other.
We're pretty resilient. We've played some games, taken some punches, and we always bounce back. So that's one thing that it's a trait of a winning characteristic. So something we take pride in. Just never give up. Like the Michigan game, we're down 11 points. You're never out of it. Just keep fighting. So that's a good trait I've realized that we have.
Just piggybacking off Sam, we're able to take punches, and like you said, that resiliency is really a character trait of this team, and was really important going forward as we go into conference play, because some games we might start off slow and be able to take those punches and come back and make a run and win the game. That's important.
It's a great thing to have. We have 8 guys that can score double digits any given game, so I feel like it's harder to scout because you never know who's going to go off. Obviously, we have the consistent. Jalen's pretty consistent double figures, Jeremiah, and then we have 5 or 6 guys around him that can do just as well. So I feel like it's a good buildup of a team.
Oklahoma just one of 3 teams now with Drake getting beat over the weekend, undefeated so far here through the young portion of the season. The other 2, obviously, in conference play as well, Tennessee and Florida. Let's talk about Porter Moser, though, for a second, because I think if you look at the non-conference and you kind of just wrap up this first month and a half of the college basketball season, Porter Moser might be one of the guys when you're talking about Coach of the Year candidates.
Yeah, I mean, they did exactly what they needed to in non-conference, and some of these wins, unlike last year, look like they're about to carry some weight. The wins against Michigan, against Arizona,
Sure.
2 legitimate quad 1 victories that you believe are going to stay a quad 1 the rest of the way. And that's going to be very important as you start looking at the next couple months. But just a fantastic job of being able to identify, evaluate, and what's going to make this team work. He spent so much time, 3-and-D, wanted Bryce Goodine, Jadon Jones, who, by the way, we have not seen, and I'm not sure if we're going to.
Kind of seems like it's now a point of with Jadon Jones that we'll see him if we see him kind of thing, right?
Exactly. You want him back, but that back injury you don't mess around with, so we'll see how that goes rest of the way. But just the way they were able to, kind of pinpoint what they need each of these guys to do, and the ability that they've been able to do it at a very high level has been an impressive job by the staff and by the players of responding to the challenge.
One of the guys that is just lighting up the boards right now is Jeremiah Fears, and we want to get into him here in a second. One of the phenoms in the freshman class in college basketball. But first, we'll tell you about home field. We've been
just keep
telling you about home
focusing
field the
on
entire season, and all you got to do is go to homefieldapparel.com. Always have good items for you if you're coming out of the holiday season. Maybe got a little bit of extra cash to spend. Hit up homefieldapparel.com. The first. Oh, okay.
And then,
All right.
okay, that's fine.
That's cool. All right. You want us to just kind of.
Start talking about Fears.
Okay. Okay. So, all right. Yeah, I thought we were just, whatever. Okay. 3, 2. Certainly one of the reasons Oklahoma has gone undefeated here through the early portion of the schedule. It's not been the guys that have played a bunch of college basketball. It's been, well, they have played, and we'll talk about them here in a second, but maybe the leader of this group right now is freshman Jeremiah Fears. I mean, unbelievable that even the story of how he got to Norman Wright, he's been absolutely incredible.
Incredible. And that's when I talk about being wrong. I was wrong about Fears. I was like, nice complimentary piece. Don't put too much on his shoulders. Don't be expecting him to carry you to the second weekend of the NCAA tournament. Now, he might just be that good. And he seems like he's getting taller. He's getting stronger. Like, you look at some of the photos from when he was in high school, and I don't know if he can handle what's about to happen. He has put in the work to be the guy that is ready for this type of moment. It is so impressive. And I've given a lot of kudos to Porter for allowing him to be a freshman.
Sure.
Because, man, he's made some bad turnovers.
Especially early in the season in
he's
some of
made
the non-conference games.
Really bad decisions, and they just rolled with it. They didn't yank him out. They didn't bring his confidence down. They just kept coaching him up. And to Moser and Fears' credit, they both have said, Jeremiah has been willing to put in that work. Like, the extra film room stuff is I got to make sure I don't make these same mistakes in conference play. But I mean, what he did in the Bahamas,
sure.
We know what he did against Michigan with the 4-point play and the 30-point outing. It has been unbelievable how fast he has skyrocketed up draft boards and how he has changed the trajectory and the ceiling of what this team can do.
It's been incredible. Team lead, 18.1 points per game, 3.5 rebounds, 4.5 assists, 2+ steals a game. He does a little bit of everything, and then all of a sudden you look at Bleacher Report, and number 4 right now in the lottery in the NBA draft come this summer. He's been incredible, and the way that he ended up in Norman, basically kind of falling into Porter Moser's lap, for a team that doesn't seem like they've had a whole lot of luck over the first 3 years of Porter Moser's experience, not so much luck, but he's been just a joy to watch.
Yeah, I mean, Moser's known the Fears family for years and years from Chicagoland area, and once he wanted to reclassify from 2025 to 2024, decommits from my Illini.
Sure.
Worked out.
Thank you, Coach Underwood, for not having a spot.
And they were able, like I said, kind of have them fall into your lap. But, I give credit to a lot of the guys around them, too, because this team knew who they were in May and June. They were starting to get to know each other. And all of a sudden, this 18-year-old is going to be coming in.
Sure.
And it's like, how do you integrate him into what you're trying to get done. It's a lot of kumbaya. The chemistry's great right now.
Right.
13-0. Now we'll see how all these parts interact together.
A lot to be told here in conference play on Thursday. Porter Moser, as well as Jalen Moore, talked about the freshman Jeremiah Fears.
To just keep focusing it on what his job, what he's doing, and the lack of focus, not by him, but by sometimes guys that they're thinking about other things. When he's locked in and he stays locked in, man, he watches extra tape. He's in there shooting extra shots. He's physically a physical offensive guard. Those are things that can get you out of rhythm if you're not a physical guard. He's a physical offensive guard. But understanding that, that he is one of our best assist guys, that to set up other guys as well. But I'm not going to overthink it with him. He does a lot of really good things. We're going to keep coaching the heck out of him, keep pushing him, keep holding him accountable. And to his credit, he's so good with all that. He wants to be great. He wants to be better. And I think he's excited to play the teams we're going to play. I think he's excited about that.
What's really impressive about Jeremiah is he brings a business-like mindset to the gym every day. I mean, he works hard, he comes in, works hard, and he makes sure he puts that time in. And I think that's important. I think for him, that's been his building block this whole year, just continuing to improve each game. And it's been impressive to see what he's done. And just go into this conference play with that same mindset, which he is going to be, because he's an aggressive player. He's a fast player, get out in transition, and just keeping that business-like mindset. I'm pretty sure that's going to be important for him going in.
Let's stop down and talk about homefieldapparel.com. They've been with us all football season. Now we make that transition into basketball. Maybe got a couple extra bucks in the stocking stuffer from Santa Claus. Why not spend it at homefieldapparel.com? 15% off first order using the promo code SCOOP. And I'm sure it was part of the Stoia family celebration as well.
Yeah, I got several things for my family for Christmas. The pullover is awesome. I think those things are super cool. But lots of cool T-shirts throwing back to Orange Bowl, National Champs, stuff like that. But I know the family loves the gear, and again, it's the vintage stuff is second to none.
It all looks really, really good, and I love the way that home field stuff. I know that we both have I
think they have a
sweatshirts
Top Dog
and all that kind of stuff. Yeah,
Top Dog T-shirt,
love the old school
one.
throwback
Yeah.
Oklahoma Sooners basketball tee. All you got to do is go to homefieldapparel.com and use the promo code SCOOP, as you see there, 15% off your first order. Special thank you to our friends over at Home Field Apparel. And now we jump back into a little bit of basketball discussion. I think about when you were talking about, Moser kind of letting him find his way here as a freshman. You go back to that Michigan game and his kind of hello world moment on national television. He has the 2 turnovers late in the game. And if you're not able to win that game, if he's not able to make the 4-point play, you're talking, well, you just got to live with those, live with those turnovers at the end of the game. But he makes the shot, and it just seems like he's not scared of any type of big moment, which is probably really good news when you look at the schedule coming up in the SEC.
Yeah, that Michigan game, you go back to it, that was him learning how to play against size, too.
Sure.
I remember he was struggling. He did not know what to do that first half of the first half. He was really finding his way. He willed his way to the free throw line during the final 5 minutes to keep the Sooners into it, and then he found his rhythm. He figured out, okay, this is how I got to navigate this game to get us to where we need to go. And, Porter loves to say he's fearless. He's no fears in him, and he's definitely shown that time and time again. We'll definitely see. Does he have the physical makeup to be able to withstand? Like you're going against Sears on set. The test begins early. You're going against one of the best point guards in the entire country, and we'll see how Fears handles that moment.
Certainly one of the most veteran players as well. It's not just Fears in Oklahoma's backcourt, though, that has been a little bit of a surprise this season. Duke Miles and Kobe Elvis. I mean, when you talk about 2 guys that have come in and just really kind of maintained the role that you would think a veteran player would have, they've brought that and then some in the OU backcourt.
Yeah, what you're seeing from Duke Miles the last 3 games, that's, I think, what OU thought it would see right from the jump. It took him a while to find his rhythm, maybe to understand his role now that Fears is here. Because I think, Duke was going to be that high-volume scorer. There's no doubt in my mind he would be like the number 1A and 1B with Jalen Moore had Fears not arrived. And I think it took him a while to adjust. But 21 points per game the last 3. You go back to the second half against Michigan. That was sort of his coming out party, too. He's been lights out ever since. Kobe Elvis, he's done a tremendous job. They've all done. The assist to turnover ratio has been very impressive with those 3, and they've made up for their lack of size on defense, they're active hands.
Sure.
They get steals, they get deflections, and we'll see, can that type of, 3-guard lineup that they've used so often throughout the course of the season, will that be able to withstand the physicality that they're about to see?
I think it was Damon Stoudemire that said it after the Georgia Tech game here in Norman. If you're looking at what Oklahoma can be in an NCAA tournament type setting or how far this team can go, it's going to be that backcourt. You wrote about it on Monday. That trio averaging over 10 assists per game. Fears with 4.5 a game. Elvis with 3.5. Duke Miles with 2, and then also the 5 steals a game, or 5+ steals a game from that backcourt. Fears 2.2, Miles 1.8, and Elvis 1.2. It's been a beautiful, beautiful ride with those 3.
It's been a beautiful ride, and just the selflessness attitude. Like, if you have a bad game, so what? There's someone else there to kind of pick you up, and then your time's going to come.
Sure.
Maybe the next game is the one you go off for 25, 30 points. And the way that they've been taking turns, knowing who the hot hand is, getting them the ball, it's been just almost a joy to watch these first 2 months of the season.
And when you get into the front court, and even some of the guys from the backcourt as well, that's when you start hearing what Sam Godwin was talking about. It feels like there's 7, 8, maybe 9 guys, and that's still without Jadon Jones, as we talked about, that you feel like can come in and contribute, whether it be a Bryson Goodine, whether it be, obviously, in the starting lineup, Sam Godwin, who has had an incredible start to his final run in Norman.
Yeah, you think about that Bedlam game. I don't know.
20 and 14?
I don't know if we'll ever
kidding me?
see that Sam again, but he is averaging 6.7 boards. He is cleaning up the glass once again, and he is a guy, obviously, you don't run any offensive plays for. He just does the dirty work to try to get the job done. It's going to be imperative, clearly, stay out of foul trouble. We all know that's been his bugaboo.
And especially in the SEC play, when
Yep.
you're starting to play some of these guys, as you're going to see on Saturday, even somebody like a Grant Nelson, but even some of the bigger guys when you get into Tennessee, Auburn, and the big boys. Mississippi State's really long. Texas A&M has some size. It's a loaded conference right now. And we'd be remiss to not mention Glenn Taylor's been excellent as well.
That was another guy I wanted to spotlight. It's just someone who has accepted the role that's being asked of him. He's not a high-volume scorer. He's in to provide a lot of energy. He's very physically tough. Someone not afraid to take it to the hole. Gets the free throw line a lot. That's what he thinks is the strength of his game. He's shown it time and time again. If you can come off the bench and earn some fouls against the opposing team, get to the free throw line, and then let your starters kind of take you home, like, he's doing exactly what's being asked.
I thought Glenn Taylor had a really nice run in the Bahamas as Oklahoma went to win the Battle for Atlantis. So there you go. I mean, the conference play begins, 18 games, and it's going to be interesting. Like, what are you thinking Oklahoma needs to do in conference play to really solidify? I know it's a terribly tough question to answer right now. Would 8-10 be good enough? Would 7-11 put you right back where you are in like kind of that Big 12 bubble where, the SEC, I mean, there's talk right now they get 13 teams into the NCAA tournament. It's a significant basketball conference.
It's something Porter mentioned last Sunday. It's like the narrative he wants thrown out is that only a certain number of teams from this conference can make the tournament. He wants that to go away. He truly feels that hurt his squad last season. Like, the Big 12 can't get all these teams in. If you're good enough, then yes, that's what should happen.
Sure.
And so he truly believes, leave that narrative in the past. If there's 13 teams good enough in the SEC, then put 13 teams in. If you're 8-10 and you're that's 21-10, then
sure,
you think you're for sure lock. You'd love to see them win a couple of road games. We know if you can just hold serve at home, that's going to be more than good enough. But it's just going to be about that mental toughness, as Porter even joked about today. One game at a time. Just look at your schedule. Don't look at the, a 3-game stretch, 4-game stretch. Just look at that one game and try to go at that type of pace, because every single night it's going to be a different type of challenge. At this moment, 16 quad 1 games, 2 quad 2. That's ridiculous.
That's a conference schedule for you. And up next is number 5, Alabama. Oklahoma headed down, taking the unbeaten record to Tuscaloosa on Saturday. Bob, we appreciate you catching up with the men, and we'll flip out. We'll go a little pit change here and bring in George Stoia to talk about the 12-1 Oklahoma women. Now let's talk a little bit about Oklahoma's women's basketball team. Jenny Baranchek and crew off to a really good start. George, welcome in. A big game on Thursday with Texas coming to town. Top 5 matchup, or top 10 matchup.
Top 10 matchup. Texas is damn good, Eddie. They were really great last year.
Yeah.
Probably even better this year. Got a couple girls back, and obviously a couple, several girls from last year's team. Booker obviously is one of the best players in the country. Number 5 in the country in the AP poll, but number 1 in net rating this year. Their only loss coming to Notre Dame, who Notre Dame is also on a tear. I'm not sure. Notre Dame ranks 3rd in the country right now. So it's not going to get easy for Oklahoma either. They play at Tennessee next, who I think is 15th in the country.
Oklahoma just one of 5 teams currently ranking in the top 20 nationally in scoring, offense, rebounding margin, field goal percentage, defense as well. And it's kind of been a tale of just they a little bit better than everybody else. And obviously, when you talk about Oklahoma, you probably got to start with the transfer, Reagan Beers. She's been phenomenal through the first 13 games.
Yeah, almost 18 points per game, almost 10 rebounds per game. I mean, she has been the bell cow for Oklahoma. And what makes her so good and this Oklahoma roster so good is the fact that she can play next to Skylar Vann. I mean, putting Skylar Vann and her in the starting lineup together, they've been a really good duo. I mean, Skylar Vann was, the Big 12 Player of the Year a year ago. She's still averaging 11 points per game, 4.8 rebounds, having a good year. But you put Reagan in that mix, it's just kind of opened up things. And really, it's the offense that even on nights that maybe Oklahoma isn't shooting as well from 3, which they haven't shot as well this year from 3, they still are able to find ways to score because of Reagan Beers. She's been a monster on the glass, whether that's defensive rebounds or even offensive rebounds. And I think the biggest thing, Eddie, is they've been able to continue to run this fast-paced offense, even though they added someone like Reagan Beers, who's usually more of a, set it up, half-court offense type of player, put it in the post and let her go to work. They're still running the exact same thing that they've been running. And then, the veteranness of this group. I mean, you've just got a bunch of girls that have played a ton of college basketball, and that has shown in big wins, especially, we've talked about it a little bit, but that Louisville win, however many weeks ago that was, coming from, I think 11 down in the fourth quarter.
Peyton Verhulst was incredible.
I mean, Peyton Verhulst is such a underrated player for Oklahoma. I don't even know about underrated, maybe underrated nationally.
Sure.
Like, I think that her ability to create her own shot is something Oklahoma hasn't always had. And when they need a bucket, she's certainly somebody they look to.
Averaging a second best on the team behind Reagan Beers, 13.5 points per game. And I think when you look at Oklahoma, and particularly in the backcourt, you talk about Skylar Vann, sister. Zaya Vann's been helping him out quite a bit as well as a freshman.
She has been probably the biggest surprise on this team. You come in as a true freshman, and especially on a roster like this, Eddie, that has so many talented players, girls that have played a lot of basketball. Lexi Keys, right? Lexi Keys is coming off the bench. That always amazes me, which she's having a great year too, 7.8 points per game. But to have somebody like Zaya Vann who can run the offense, because last year, Eddie, there was a lot of times that Nevaeh Tot, the point guard, when she checked out of the game, the offense just didn't flow as well. They didn't have somebody that can come in and kind of run that. And Nevaeh Tot's, stats are never going to jump off, but she makes this thing go, especially offensively. So to now have somebody like Zaya Vann who's been able to come in, handle the ball, and kind of keep this up-tempo offense going, and can shoot extremely well. I mean, she's lethal from beyond the arc and can create her own shot. Like, to have that type of production from a true freshman in Jenny Baranchek is huge.
It would seem through the non-conference slate, at least, in the one loss coming to Duke in a overtime loss.
Duke's really good.
They were down by 5 and ended up coming back, storming back out in Vegas and sending it to overtime. But it seems like this group, as maybe compared to Jenny's first couple teams in Norman, it seems like because of Beers inside, because of Sahara Williams can get to – they don't have to rely on the three-point shot is, I guess, what I'm trying to get at, even though they do still shoot the ball extremely well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, again, like I said, Reagan Beers, but you also have Liz Scott coming off the bench, who they didn't have a year ago. I mean, last year, the fall of that team, the Achilles heel, was they just didn't have enough size. And when they weren't shooting the ball well, they just weren't going to win games. And they had some games that they definitely shouldn't have lost. Even the game they lost to Indiana in the round of 32 a year ago, that was a game that I think they felt like they should have won, even though it was at Indiana, tough place to play, and Indiana was a really good team. That was a game that they really thought that they should have won. And this year, it feels like they can get over that hump. The problem, Eddie, is their schedule is brutal.
I was getting ready to say, we were just talking about it with Bob, with the men. This week, as a small sample size. Texas, obviously, in a tremendously good Texas team that has a great opportunity to get to the Final Four, win a national championship, and then you go to Knoxville on Sunday. Excuse me.
Yeah, and you look at Tennessee's a really good team. They've got a new coach this year. They've been playing extremely well. They got to go to South Carolina later in the season, at LSU. I think they go to Texas as well. So you get Kentucky and Alabama, who are also ranked at home. So it doesn't get easy. And you look at, in women's basketball this year, I feel like most years it's like, oh, well, it's LSU, Iowa in recent years, UConn, some of these teams. USC is really good this year, but it feels pretty open this year, kind of wide open. UCLA, they're one of the only undefeated teams in the country right now. They're ranked number 1. But you look at this, top 25. A lot of these teams can beat anybody. And Oklahoma has performed well. You lose to Duke, who's ranked 14th in the country right now. You beat Michigan, who's 20th in the country. You beat Louisville. They've done pretty well. It's just you just never know, and it feels like women's college basketball. There's usually only 2 or 3 or 4 teams that you're like, oh, they can win it all. It feels like there's truly 10 to 15 teams right now that are kind of in that hunt.
And a lot of teams that do it quite differently than the other. And tonight or Thursday night might be a little bit of a taste of that with an Oklahoma team that shoots the ball extremely well from behind the arc. And Texas doesn't seem like they shoot any threes.
Yeah, and hopefully people are watching this before the game tonight. But, Texas is a team that, the 2 games that Texas lost to Oklahoma last year, I'm sure they want some revenge.
Maybe a little bit of controversy in the one in Norman.
Some real controversies in that last minute, but credit to Oklahoma. Lexi Keys hit the big 3 in that game. Lexi Keys was also huge in the game at Austin a year ago, in which Oklahoma just kind of went down there and just straight up beat them. And we're just the better team that night. And Texas is a team that they're super talented, very well coached. Like I said, number 1 in net rating right now. So they've been just beating the crap out of some teams and some good teams. So I think this is going to be a great matchup, and I would anticipate, Eddie, the atmosphere being pretty good too.
I think it will be. I think it's going to be I know just from talking to my parents that are coming down to the Lloyd Noble Center on Thursday night that it's limited tickets just about everywhere inside the LNC.
I wish the students were in school to go to the game tonight.
Need to get them out there. Oklahoma with a 16-game home winning streak, looking to extend it to 17 games, which would be the longest streak for Oklahoma in quite some time. I believe it would be like 10 years, maybe possibly, of 17-game home winning streak. So it's all on the line as Oklahoma, men and women, both open up conference play this week in the SEC. And I think the same could be said for both of them. Extremely tough conferences overall. Do you have a number that you think Oklahoma needs to get to that next tier in terms of bracketology and that kind of stuff?
I mean, I think that if they want to host, they definitely need to probably have a winning record in conference
finish top
play.
4, top 5, and you should be hosting first and second rounds in Norman.
Because, again, you look at the teams. I mean, you've got, what is it now? 3 SEC teams in the top 6, South Carolina, Texas, and LSU. That is brutal. And then Oklahoma's next at 9th. You've also got Tennessee in the top 25, Kentucky at 16th, like I said earlier, Alabama at 19th, so Ole Miss at 25th. So this is not an easy schedule. So if you were to finish, top 4 in the SEC, I think that you have a pretty good shot at getting one of those top, 4 seeds and hosting, the first couple rounds.
No doubt about it. It's going to be a fun couple months covering OU basketball, men's and women's, and obviously keeping an eye on the portal. Make sure you're checking in on SoonerScoop.com, the Crimson Corner, for updates here as maybe this last little push here at the beginning of January.
I think it's going to be a busy week.
Some big names, Marvin Jones Jr. from Florida State, as well as Kendall Daniels on campus in Norman on Thursday. So that's going to do it. Thanks to Bob. Thanks for George. I'm Eddie. We'll see you right back here on the SoonerScoop.com YouTube channel.